All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smithy with another GSD Mode podcast weekly real estate tip. And today I am here to break down the 6 absolute must-do things that you must dial in, that you must master ASAP inside your real estate business if you are looking to create success. Look, if you do not want to become a statistic like 90% of realtors that end up failing in their first 3 years, if we want to avoid being a statistic, if we want to create success, create long-lasting success, and create a real estate business that you can continue to grow and scale year after year, so that way you can continue to crush your overall real estate goals regardless of what is going on with the overall market conditions. Again, these 6 things are must-do items, are 100% non-negotiables. Unfortunately, the vast majority of our industry never hones these in, never dials these in, and that's why we have such a big failure rate. But even those that make it, the vast majority of those just repeat. They have the same mediocre year, and they repeat that same mediocre year for 20 or 30 years, and they just figure out a way to survive even though they are struggling for 20 or 30 years straight. And I see it each and every single day inside this amazing real estate industry of ours. So I want to make sure that you understand what these are, how to do these, and how to implement these inside your own real estate business. So again, you can crush your overall real estate goals and kick ass. All right, so if we were to simplify this and break this down, really there's one thing that you must master and you must hone in and you must dial in, which is client acquisition. Like, you got to go out there and master this. And this is the first thing as a real estate agent, as a real estate professional, that you must master inside your real estate business. And again, unfortunately, the vast majority of our industry never master this one skill set. Now, the 6 things that I'm breaking down are the things that you need to have in place in order to create success with client acquisition. So I don't want to just come on here and say, oh, you got to master client acquisition, because without breaking down all 6 of these items, well, then we're not going to be able to create the success that we want with client acquisition. What is client acquisition? That is your ability to go out there and get customers. Like, look, dude, you can be the best realtor, meaning you can know the contract inside and out. You can know real estate law. You can know all of those things inside and out and be the most knowledgeable, real estate agent in your market with these things. But if you do not have the ability to go out there and sell, if you do not have the ability to acquire customers and eventually more customers than you can handle, you're not going to go out there and create success. You're going to be a knowledgeable, broke realtor that has all this knowledge, but is broke as a joke. And we want to make sure that we avoid that. So again, in order to really hone in and master client acquisition, which is the first thing, like when I bring on a real estate agent into my real estate team here in Phoenix, Arizona, for the first 2 weeks, all I do during that first 2 weeks is hone in and dial in and make sure that they are mastering these 6 things, because these then set the foundation for the rest of their career. And this is how I take brand new agents fresh out of school and I recruit them and bring them onto my team and get them making 20 or 30 grand within 6 months, because we spend so much time up front. I have them spending 40 hours a week for the first 2 weeks, just honing in and dialing in these 6 things. So again, I'm going to go in depth on each one of these and break these down, so that way you can go out there and implement these inside your real estate business. And again, make your goals a reality and create the success that you want to create. Now, real quick, before I do so, make sure that you go check out www.gsdmode.com for more additional free resources and more additional free training. And I highly encourage you to take 2 immediate actions on that website. So the first action is to schedule a 100% free Zoom coaching call with me personally. It's going to give you and I an hour together where we can look at your overall business, where your business is currently at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals are, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are, what your current situation is, what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then based on that information, I am going to supply you with my best recommended strategy to get you from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. So again, 100% free, no strings attached. I highly encourage you to do that so we can make sure that you are focusing on the right things to go out there and create the most immediate success that you can inside your real estate business. I also encourage you to register for my 3-hour masterclass right now taking place to triple your business within the next 12 months. It's an in-depth, hardcore masterclass to give you all of the tools, all the knowledge, all of the information that you need to know to continue to grow and scale your business in this challenging market that we are in right now. And again, no strings attached, 100% free, gsdmode.com. Okay, so let's dive back in to covering the 6 absolute must-do items that you got to dial in, that you got to hone in, that you need to master right out of the gate. And look, maybe you've been in this industry, maybe you're brand new. Okay, cool. You're starting this off. If you do these 6 things, like you're going to start off on the right path and go out there and just crush it that much quicker. But look, maybe you've been doing this 10 years. Maybe you've been doing this 20 years. I talk to those in this industry sometimes that reach out for these free coaching calls to me that have been doing this 25 years and they're still struggling and they haven't honed in these things. So I don't care how long you've been doing this. These are really the kind of 6 keys to making sure that you can generate more business than you can handle. Okay, so item number 1, this comes down to clarity. You got to have extreme clarity on what you want, why it's important to you. So we got to know, okay, where you're at right now. We got to deal in realities. Here's where we're at. Here's where our business is at. Here's where we're currently at. Now, it's also important when I say deal in realities, it's important to know and understand that if you abide by the same actions, the same behaviors, if you continue doing the same things over and over and over, you're going to continue getting the same result. So right now we're winding down 2024. So if you do not change up your activities, your behaviors, your habits, your 2025 is probably going to look identical to your 2024 and maybe even a little bit worse, because things are going to get a little bit worse before they get better, with this unaffordability crisis that we are in right now, at least here in the United States. So we got to deal in realities. Okay, here is where we are at. Then when it comes to your goals, what you need to hone in is, okay, what are my immediate goals, meaning my 12-month goals? So what are your 12-month goals? What must happen? Let's just say in 2025, or maybe you're listening to this or watching this years down the road, whatever the next 12 months are for you, what must happen in the next 12 months at the highest possible level? Like, what is the single biggest outcome that you must achieve inside your real estate business that solves all your other problems? Where it's like, okay, man, New Year's Eve, you're sitting there reflecting on your year and you're high-fiving yourself. You're like, man, I did it. Like, what must happen in the next 12 months? That's realistic. So if you've only popped 3 deals in the last 12 months and you're like, well, I want to pop 300 in the next 12 months, that may not be realistic. But to go from 3 deals, maybe to 40 deals, okay, that's something that's completely realistic, completely 1000% doable, right? So want to deal in realities there. To get to 300, that might take you 3 years, right? To be doing 300 units on an annual basis. So we want to deal in realities, be realistic with this. But okay, if you are laser focused, if you master the right skill sets, if you have the right strategy, the right process, and you hone in the right skill sets and you work your ass off and you are laser focused, man, this goal is a reality. So honing in that. So we got to know, okay, what are your immediate goals? Then we got to know what your long-term goals and visions are for your real estate business and for your life. So then that way we can reverse engineer the architectural plans to get you from where you're at to where it is you want to go. And now today we're really speaking specifically with client acquisition strategies, right? So we need to hone that in. So an example of this. Okay, like let's just say you're like, well, man, what winning to me long-term in real estate would be for me to build my real estate business in such a way where I can have autonomy of location and autonomy of schedule. Meaning that, okay, like you still have work, but you can do your work from anywhere. You can go out there and travel and do your work from a hotel room, and you want to build a real estate business where you have freedom of location. Well, then from there, it may not make sense then to pick door knocking as your primary strategy for you to go out there and grow your business, because now your business is reliant on you being in a specific geographic location to go out there and knock those doors. And if you are not knocking those damn doors, okay, your business isn't growing. So we might need to then identify, it would make more sense to strategically identify ways when it comes to client acquisition for you to grow your business that can be work from anywhere, that you can do virtually, that you can do from any location. So we want to make sure that all of these pieces align, not just to solve your immediate problems, but also your long-term problems. And one of the blessings about real estate is there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There is no one way that you need to grow your real estate business. There's 1,000 things that work. We're blessed to be in an industry where it's not like we're selling, solar panels where you got one play door-to-door sales. No, man, you can do so many different things. And I can promise you right now, everything works if you work that thing properly. Okay, so step number one is getting that clarity. So, on an extreme clarity level of what your immediate goals are and what your long-term goals are. And then again, dealing in realities with where you are at in your current situation. That then brings us into item number 2, which is client acquisition. So now that we know where your business is at and what your 12-month goals are and what your long-term goals are, now we need to come up with the best proven client acquisition strategy and or strategies to get you from where you're at to where it is that you want to go. So there's 4 components to dialing in and really mastering client acquisition strategies. Okay, so first thing that we're looking at, so item number 1 here is we got to identify, okay, whom are you going to target? Now, here's the cool thing about real estate. Like the product is, if you think of this like a science experiment, like you got the variable and then you've got the control. Well, the control is the real estate itself. That is the thing that never changes. So if I look at, okay, I'll just use myself and my market, my business, right? So, okay, my product is residential real estate in the Phoenix metropolitan area. So my job is to know the residential real estate, and to go out there and help people buy and sell residential real estate. Okay, who's buying it? Who's selling? So who's buying, who's selling, where they're coming from, where they're going, where they're buying, where they're selling, what they're buying, what they're selling. Those are the variables that, okay, over my 20-year career and was selling over 7,000 homes, and what's allowed me to become one of the top realtors and team leaders on the planet is with the understanding that that variable, the whom, changes based on the economic situation, based on the, it's like when I first got in the business in 2005, started off just slaying open houses, then going into 2006, started doing open houses and calling expireds. Well, in 2007, the market slightly started changing. So, instead of doing so many expireds, I'm reaching out to these expireds, quickly realizing that the reason that the vast majority aren't selling is not because they're not willing to lower their price, but they can't because their mortgage was above where they needed to be priced. So these then turned into short sales. So then I knew and understood then that, hey, there's a big rise of short sales. I got to target, or I got to start pivoting from traditional buyers and sellers, and start adding in to my strategies short sales, which then eventually led me to also adding in foreclosures, REO, because then in 2008, boom, the market drops off a freaking cliff and we enter the worst housing market crash in the United States recorded history. So from like 2008 through like 2012, vast majority of my business were short sales and REOs, where the previous 2 years was traditional business. And since the primary makeup of my business has been traditional business, but for that 4-year stint, I had to pivot. Now, I was still focusing on the same geographical locations, still focusing on residential real estate, still focusing on the control, but the whom can shift and change. Just like, 2012 to about 2022, the whom was the same for me. But then in our market, boom, like things started changing massively with all the increase of interest rates. And now that we've entered the most unaffordable time to be alive as a U.S. citizen. So now we're in this crazy, insane unaffordability crisis, and just overall life plus with real estate. Okay. Well, whom started to shift and change massively in 2022 in my real estate business. So what I want you to look at with whom, and again, this is part can be changing throughout your career. Sometimes you'll find certain niches, if you will. The whom is, okay, who am I going to be focused on? That's what when you hear the word niches, or niche, this is what we're talking about, right? So then from there, but you got to be fluid. You got to be willing to pivot the niche. You got to be willing to pivot the whom. Certain markets, that whom might be strong. Other times and other seasons in your real estate career, that can shift and change. So looking at, okay, whom can I serve and support at the highest level with my real estate needs based on this current market? So we're going to identify the whom. Then this next step, item number 2 here is now we identify the how. So now that I know who I'm going to target. So let's just say I'm going after sales. Okay, you got FSBOs, you got expire. Like I'm talking about things that are working well today. You got FSBOs, you got expireds, you got absentee owners, you got people going through a divorce, you got pre-foreclosures. Those are 5 amazing niches. There's others, but those are 5 amazing niches for this market. So let's just say you selected one of those. Okay, so then now you start breaking down, okay, how am I going to target them? Okay, so these are the mediums, right? So now we got to look at the how. Okay, well, am I going to door knock? Am I going to hit the phone? Am I going to do direct mail or letter campaigns? Am I going to scrape that audience or scrape that data, upload it to a customized audience, and start running strategic, social media ads through Facebook and Instagram? There's many different hows. So now that we know whom we are targeting, then we got to identify, okay, how are we going to target them? And maybe you're targeting through multi-level campaign. Maybe you're doing, running Facebook ads and at the same time doing mailer campaigns to them. It doesn't mean like you only got to do one of these, right? But then we got to identify, okay, how are you going to target them? And again, these things then go back to what we talked about earlier. Like, what are your goals, right? What's your timeline? What are your goals? If somebody comes to me and is like, okay, well, I want to do expireds and I want to use your letter campaign. I've heard amazing things about it. I've heard that it converts really well. All those things are true. But my letter campaign, my average inbound expired call is after letter number 8, which is 6.2 months post expiration. So if you were to come to me, I'm like, hey, dude, I need listings yesterday. I can't wait 6 months. If I go 6 months out of paycheck, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to have to drop out of the industry. I need to start stacking listings yesterday. Okay, well, then we're going to, that timeline can help determine the medium that we're going after. The quickest way to getting listings, dude, is going to be pounding the phones, right? It's just the reality of it. Now we can also, and I do this a lot with coaching clients and agents on my own team. It's like, okay, maybe we stack a now play, but then we start stacking another play, another medium that eventually 6, 7, 8 months is really going to start kicking up and we'll replace that immediate. But we got to look at those things, right? Because we don't want you to run out of money and get yourself into a financial pinch. So this is where a timeline is really important, and your how will sometimes be determined on your timeline. A lot of times, right, be determined on your timeline. Plus where that person shows up and all of that stuff. Okay, then the third component of this is then we got to make sure we're nailing your messaging. Look, how I speak to a FSBO is different than I speak to an expired. How I speak to an expired is different than I'm speaking to, somebody going through a divorce. How I speak to somebody going through a divorce is different than my scripting or messaging to an absentee owner. That's different than a pre-foreclosure. Just like how I follow up and speak to an open house lead is different than a, paid Facebook buyer lead. That's different than maybe a Zillow lead, right? So we got to make sure that the messaging is matching the lead that is coming in based on the psychology of that, where that lead is coming in from, right? Because how that lead is coming in or whom we're targeting, they have different needs, different fears, different concerns. And marketing 101 is you enter the conversation taking place in the consumer's mind that you are targeting. Okay, so then the fourth component and the last component here to mastering really client acquisition, right, is the process. So now when we look at process, this is, okay, how long? How frequent? So how long do I need to follow up and continue following up and targeting this lead? How frequent, right? And then in which ways? So like with my expired letter, okay, I have that letter campaign going out for 2 years. That letter campaign does really good at converting those that are kind of that, 4 month to 2 year out. It's like, yeah, they still have a goal of selling, but they're like, hey, I just need a pause. I just need a break. I'm sick and tired of making my bed every single day, our beds every single day, and scrubbing our house every day. And like, we just want to take a breather. We want to take a pause. Okay, those are people that relist immediately are either going relisting with the agent. Maybe the previous listing agent just made a mistake and forgot to get an addendum signed to extend the listing. So they're either relisting with the previous listing agent, or they're going with the people that are aggressive with the phones or door knocking them, hitting them up front. So then from there, okay, like I have a very specific frequency. It starts off more frequent and then it slowly starts to taper off the longer that we get. But I understand, okay, here's how long and here's how frequent I need to make sure that letter is going out. So process is just the steps. What is step 1? What is step 2? What is step 3? What is step 4? So this is, okay, how long, how frequent, and then in which medium. So, is this going to be a letter? Is this going to be an email? Is this going to be a phone call? Is this going to be a text message? So we got to nail all 4 of those components to have success with our client acquisition strategy and or strategies. Okay, now I want to get into, so that's item number 2. Our thing number 2, if you will, is mastering client acquisition. And again, the rest of these are supporting strategies because, okay, why was number 1 so important with defining your goal? Well, your client acquisition strategies We got to deal in realities and make sure that we have the right client acquisition strategy and or strategies in place to ensure that you hit your immediate goals, but then to ensure that we're adjusting those to hit your long-term goals. So if you come to me and you're like, hey, dude, I want to close 48 deals in the next 12 months. Well, we got to make sure we're doing enough. We got to make sure we're targeting the right people in the right ways, doing the right things, saying the right things, but we got to make sure we're doing enough of those. So if you were like, hey, Josh, I need to be taking a listing a week, or I need to get a buyer a week, right? Okay, I can, like, we know that we have this down to a science. I know exactly what you need to be doing every single day, every single week to make sure that your goals are reality. And if you follow these things and you do this in this way, you target this, these sets of people, you do exactly this, you say exactly this, you follow this process, this frequency, boom, you are 100% going to hit your goal. This stuff is not complicated, right? But we got to make sure you're doing enough of it to make your goals a reality. So the number 2 client acquisition strategies exist so we can make number 1 a reality of you hitting your goals. Okay, the other items, again, are to support you with your client acquisition strategy. So number 3 is making sure that your tracking system is in place. Well, what kind of a tracking system, or how do I structure my tracking? Well, you need to be tracking what you're doing for client acquisition based on what your strategies are. Like if I'm going to be pounding the phones, well, that's going to be different than my business is inbound. It's going to be different if it's open. I'm going to have different trackers for these different things because I need to track different things in different ways, but to ensure I'm on track, right? To ensure and identify and see areas of improvement, all of those things to make sure that I'm improving and make sure I'm doing the right things in the right way. The only way to create predictability inside of our business is through tracking. And the only way to know where we actually need to increase a skill set is through also tracking. Like, dude, maybe I'm talking to a gentleman the other day who's going after expireds that reached out in one of these free coaching calls, listen to the podcast here. And man, I mean, his dial to conversation rate wasn't bad, could improve slightly, but wasn't bad. Even his conversation to appointment set rate wasn't bad. It's like, hey, man, this could improve greatly. We could 3X this, and by doing X, Y, Z, we could 3X this, but it's not bad. His biggest thing that he's currently missing is actually on the listing presentation. His appointment conduction to client taken rate was that was the biggest red flag out of his track data. I'm like, this is the first thing that we need to dial in and get dialed in. The other things are good. They're not great. They're not exceptional, but they're good. Right. No, but this over here, this is bad, man. Like we got to plug this hole immediately. Tracking allows us to see that. If he hadn't tracked his numbers, I wouldn't have been able to identify that. Right. Okay. So getting your tracking system set up. Okay. The next item number 4 is making sure that you have your CRM set up and dialed in. Right. When I say set up and dialed in, we need to set it up based on what your client acquisition strategy and or strategies are. Your CRM is just your technology assistant to help you effectively and efficiently maximize on your conversions with your current client acquisition strategy. So we got to make sure it's set up for your protocols, right? And just reminding you of what to do and automating the things that it can do for you, with those things. At least in my experience, it's an impossibility to maximize conversion rates without your CRM set up appropriately. Okay, number 5 is we then must have in place and master, make sure that you've got a world-class buyer consultation, world-class listing presentation in place, and you've mastered those so you're conducting those at a world-class level. Real estate is a 2-step sales process. All your lead gen, lead follow-up protocols exist for you to set the appointment. Well, we don't want to put all this energy and effort into setting the appointment for you to go on the appointment and flop the appointment. Right? Like you don't want to do industry average anything inside this industry, which is 50% conversion rate on your appointment conduction to closing or to client taken rate. No, you should be like at 90% or above with these things, right? And these things can make a world of difference and make it where you can do a hell of a lot less with more if you really hone in and dial these things in. So you need to identify a world-class buyer consultation listing presentation so you can implement those in your business. Then you need to rehearse them. You need to practice. When I talk about mastery happens when eyeballs are not on you. So you go work your ass off all day long. Then when you get home, go spend some time with the family. When the family goes to bed, that is where now you're practicing, getting your reps, getting these things honed in and dialed in. Okay, so then the 6th item, the last item, is dialing in and mastering your sphere of influence, past client, so your repeat referral strategies in place. Why is this so essential? This is the future gold, right? These are people that know you, like you, trust you, know what you do for a living. You don't have to sell them. You're not having to spend all this energy, time. These are just the, hey, we're looking to buy, looking to sell, come list me calls, or, hey, we're looking to buy, looking to sell. So-and-so said that you're the best, right? Like this is that future goal. You get to that point where, okay, 5 years from now, you're doing 100 units a year, 50 to 60 of those units are just past client repeat referral business. That's where shit gets good, man. And every single master operator in real estate and outside of real estate, any business understands that the name of business is maximizing lifetime value of a customer. Let's just say your average commission is 10 grand. Okay, well, a customer isn't worth 10 grand to your business. If you do this right throughout the longevity of your career, that customer should be worth at a minimum 70 grand to your business through all the repeat referral business that they do over the next 20, 30, 40 year, long career that you have. You got to be making sure that you are playing that long game. What do 90% of those in our industry do? They collect the commission check, peace out, see you later, never reach out to them, and never do a repeat, business with them, never send them referrals. That's what the vast majority do in this industry. You want to do the opposite of what everybody else says. We know that the vast majority of this industry would make more money working at McDonald's full-time than they do in this industry. The vast majority are broke as a joke. 7% of this industry make 93% of the income. 93% of this industry make 7% of the income. You don't want to be on that majority side. So we need to hone in and dial in your sphere of influence, past client strategies to make sure that you are maximizing on that repeat referral business. So these are the 6 must-do action items for you to go out there and create success. They're like, you should be doing nothing else other than honing in and dialing these in until these are dialed in and you've mastered these. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to do anything else. It doesn't make sense for you to go out there and be, playing with AI or going into Canva and playing with Canva or doing all this other bullshit until you master these 6 things. You shouldn't have a focus on anything else until you've dialed these in and mastered these in. And they don't take a long time. Like I said, when I bring on a new agent, dude, spend 2 weeks on these. I'm not going to let them go out there and start lead genning and doing lead fall until all 6 of these things, like, we've got their goals. We know what their goals are. We've got clarity on goals. We know what their client acquisition strategy is going to be. I'm not going to have them start executing on that, though, until we got their tracking system in place. They know how to use it. Their CRM setup dialed, and they know how to utilize it. We got their listing presentation, buyer presentation in place, and they're starting to master that. We got their sphere of influence, past client strategy. And then once those things are dialed in, then boom, now we start execution on the new client acquisition strategies, because all these supporting items are going to help them crush it and have success with the client acquisition strategies. So these are those 6 things that you need to get dialed in and master ASAP in order to create success and have long-lasting success inside your real estate career. So I hope that you found this helpful. Again, make sure to check out gsdmode.com. Highly encourage you to jump on that free coaching call with me personally, that Zoom coaching call. A Zoom coaching call, it's going to be you and I. And look, if you don't know what the best client acquisition strategies are for you, that's what this free Zoom coaching call is all about. It is a strategy blueprint coaching call. So I can jump on this call with you. We're going to do a deep dive into your business, your strengths, your weaknesses, your current situation, whether you're part-time, full-time, individual agent, team leader, broker owner, wherever you're at, whatever position that you're at in your career. And then based on where you're at and what your goals are, I am going to map out what I believe to be the best strategy and or strategies for you to ensure that you go from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. And I promise you this, you will not leave this free Zoom coaching call without knowing exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where you want to go. 100% free, no strings attached. So if you want to take advantage of that, go to www.gsdmode.com. Going to see a banner at the top where you can go schedule that, book that, and look forward to jamming with you and helping you get dialed in on Zoom soon. I truly appreciate all of you. Keep crushing, keep kicking ass. I will see you next time. Peace.